Now, as coaches trying to grow our Skool communities, when our programs don't sell, we generally think that we've got an offer problem or a traffic problem. And generally that is true. But there is one mistake that I personally made. And if you make this, then basically your traffic and your offer don't really matter that much. And when I fixed this problem, I was able to start growing my Skool communities properly, making more money, and I've made 6 figures both on and off the Skool platform from my community business. But you really need to make sure that you're not falling into this trap. So in this video, I'm going to take you through the issue that I made so that you can identify whether you're making the same mistake as well, so that you can avoid it and make sure that your offer does start to sell and you start to get more conversions for your business. So basically the issue that I had and what I did when I was first growing my Skool communities nearly 2 years ago was that I had a misaligned audience. I was not targeting people in the right way. Because before I came to the Skool platform, I was basically teaching people how to grow faceless YouTube channels as a business. So I was growing multiple channels without using my face. I was doing voiceovers and so on, and I had multiple channels and was managing freelancers and so on, and then teaching other people how to do the same. And this was going great for a number of years. This was fantastic business. I had an online course. It was selling very well, completely passively. And then I saw some shifts in the market, and an online course alone stopped selling quite as well. But I continued to do it, and it was still earning good enough money. But at some point, that industry became a little bit, I just didn't want to do it anymore, should we say. AI and a lot more competition, and then also people giving a lot more away for free on the Skool platform and so on, just made it into an industry that I didn't really enjoy as much. And I wasn't enjoying working with freelancers so much and managing teams and all of that. So I decided that, you know what, I'm going to change niche. I'm going to stop targeting people that just want to do faceless channels because I don't like the direction I see it going in. I think YouTube is going to start cracking down on these and so on. And then I thought, okay, well, what skills do I have? What skills do I have that I can just slightly pivot and continue to make great money? I can even use some of my course, or I could do an updated version. And I thought, okay, well, I'll start targeting more general YouTube growth, more people that actually want to get on camera, people that want to grow YouTube channels for their businesses and so on. So people that want to grow their YouTube channels. And this made complete sense because it was still a very large audience. So I figured, great, I'm going to pivot to that. And that's exactly what I did. And my YouTube videos continue to get go really well. They were getting great views as well. Some of them were still going viral. So there was no issue there in terms of the traffic. And I created my Skool communities, which kept a similar name, and I changed that over time and tried a number of different angles. And basically I opened it up, my community, to general YouTube growth. And I gave away a free challenge and so on, and people came inside and everything looked like it was going completely to plan. My channel was growing, I was getting hundreds of thousands of views, and my community was growing quite quickly. And I was getting great engagement and so on. And then I decided, okay, I think now's the time. I'm going to do an updated version of my course. I'm going to make sure that it's tailored to people that are more general YouTube growth and not the faceless side. I really want to sort of pivot away from that. And I created it and I launched it. And it didn't really sell. It didn't really sell that well. And I was basically selling it for a similar price to the faceless channel that I was doing, the faceless type of content. And I really couldn't understand why, because I was getting a lot of the views, and sure, it made some sales, but not really enough to justify the amount of work I was doing, especially all the free stuff I was doing. And I really couldn't understand what it was. And then I very quickly realized what was happening. I was basically selling to people that didn't necessarily want to buy my program. They didn't want to spend the money. It wasn't a great type of urgency. And I think this is something that we could all potentially fall into, is who are we targeting and in what way? So are we targeting people that will generally always just want free content? They would never want to move past that. They're happy just consuming on social media and YouTube and maybe being inside your community, but they don't necessarily want to upgrade. They see that as probably a no-no and not something they're particularly interested in. And then we've got the people where they go, that's nice. I would kind of like that. I would kind of like to learn more about that. Maybe I'll be willing to pay a little bit, but not that much. Maybe these are generally more the hobbyist people, or people that it's something they want to do, but there's no sense of urgency or pain behind it. And I call that the nice. And we often try to sell to people that would like it, but it's just a nice. It's not an urgent, necessary, pressing matter. And then there's the people that basically see it as an investment or an opportunity. And these are the ones that, for the most part, we want to be targeting. Because if they're in pain and they're willing to invest because they want to remove that pain, if it's a business especially, then they're willing to see it as an investment. If it's an opportunity in their future, if it's something that is going to bring in money, if it's something that's going to improve their health, their looks, it's going to improve their status, is something that's worth the investment of their time and resources in terms of money, then these are the people that we want to target. The issue is that these are generally the biggest audiences. They're the ones that are going viral. And this is the trap that I fell into. What I didn't realize, and I should have probably realized at the time, was that what I was selling when I was doing YouTube growth for the faceless side was I was selling a business opportunity. Whereas when I just slightly moved to more general YouTube growth, and I figured it would just bring in all the business people as well, it didn't. It brought in a few, but not many. And what I'd actually done was devalued what I was teaching. Because now I was in the nice pile. Yeah, that's nice. I would like to know more, but maybe I'm just happy with the free. So the nice and the free were the people I was now generally targeting more. So what I did was I pivoted and I went more towards vlogging and vlogging for business and so on. But what this did was it made my audience even smaller, and it meant that I was starting to get fewer views because I had to start speaking to business more, because even just doing the vlogging side was still bringing in the nice people. I don't want nice people. I'm sure you don't want that either. So the more I moved towards, say, business or something that was more opportunity or fixing a particular pain, the smaller my audience got. And then in terms of YouTube, you lose credibility as you're starting to get fewer and fewer views on your video. So the moment then I pivoted completely and switched back to business opportunity in my particular case, again, it doesn't have to be business opportunity, but there does have to be the urgency, pain, status, and so on that you need to fix. So as soon as I moved towards that again, people valued what I was teaching, it carried more weight, and therefore I was able to help people that were willing to pay for my services and my time. I was fixing problems that carried more weight and more value. And now this sounds obvious, but I see so many people falling into this trap. And sometimes, like myself, you can't necessarily see it while you're doing it because you just don't think. We think if we just go broad and general, eventually the people that actually want the product will filter through. And some will. You will make some sales. But the issue is some sales is not necessarily enough. And if you're having to get huge amounts of views to be able to grow that business, then it's not aligned enough. It's actually far better to get fewer views and be perfectly aligned and therefore fix more things. So it's a trap that we often fall into, is whether you can get the sales from the volume. And if you can't get hot enough buyer traffic from the volume that you're getting, then obviously you're potentially not going to make enough sales from that particular type of traffic. So we need to make sure that we're selling to people that want to buy our product, people that will actually buy what we're selling, what we're offering. Otherwise, if it's just nice, you're really going to struggle to get them to make a sale. Now, if you would like more help with growing your Skool community, especially with YouTube, I will link to our free group in the video description. And let me know, have you struggled with this alignment? Do you think your offer is just nice? Let me know in the comments. All right, thanks for watching.